So, okay. Do we want to just kind of take turns talking about it instead of going through the questions? Because I'm sure we're going to answer them anyways.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, okay, so who wants to start? Anybody can start if they want.
I might as well, since I can talk.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
Okay, well, first of all, the first speech, I'm just kind of going by what I see on my paper versus, and then everybody can actually put in their 2 cents about it. I think the things that were really, really effective about his speaking is they limited how long they could speak, which he had to compile everything within so many words. And so since we've learned about that from, what is her name? Marcia, is that her name?
Yeah.
Since we learned about that, like cutting everything in half, you either get your stuff in or you don't. So they had to be limited with what they were saying. So that, I thought that was pretty effective, because anything they had to say, he had to say within so many minutes. I thought it was his data. Let's see here. I put down the, I don't know, the data is kind of accurate as far as bringing it in scripture and stuff like that. I mind you, it's not, I don't think it's King James Version necessarily, but I thought it was pretty accurate because it's from the Lord, but that kind of, it was accurate on that end, just from scriptural sense. And then I thought he presented his information and asked everyone to judge. I liked it that he asked everyone to say, judge for yourself. And so he did turn it into a, well, you need to think about for yourself. So that's something that we were taught is that, you know, we need to be able to apply it to someone so they can think about it for themselves. And then let's see here. His basis of premise for his stance, I thought was, his whole thing was religious. It's about, you're going to be damned. You're going to be destroyed like Sodom and Gomorrah. Everything in his speech was the same thing to me. And personally, I don't think that helped him really.
Yeah.
And I was not, I don't know how you guys feel about this. I was not impressed, even though it was scriptural or even though it was based on a preacher's type of word, you know, the way he came across almost sounded like a preacher. I was turned off the second he started talking.
Yeah, I was too, Cheryl, and I'm glad you noticed that, because I thought, am I the only one who's gonna feel this way? But you know how Sister Barlow stated that when you're trying to discern your side of a discussion, stay away from scriptural or spiritual application, which is important, but for some reason given that setting, I feel like immediately people tuned out and didn't want to listen.
Well, you notice those 2 people in the background. You notice their body language?
Yeah.
It was like, oh my gosh, are we kidding me? I'm going, oh my word, this is about, you know, people don't care about God anymore, at least, you know, going to something like that.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Well, that's one thing that's always been tricky for me too, because it's like, while I don't believe in same-sex marriage, because obviously I'm a Christian and, you know, we follow God's law, see, I feel for them. I feel why they feel like they should have equal rights, and I get it. Like, I really, truly do. And so, like, for me to say, am I opposed to gay marriage? I am, because I'm Christian and that's against God's plan. But in a worldly view, like, I'm not. Like, I really feel like if 2 people love each other, then why can't they live together? Why can't they have a family? Why can't they receive the same benefits as other people? Whereas, you know, it's like, just because it's a man and a woman, but they are, you know, getting divorced and they have these abuses going on and they have adultery and they have all these other things going on. So why can't these 2 people that are faithful to each other, why can't they be married?
Mm-hmm.
Other than the scriptural reference of it.
Right.
And obviously we follow God's law, and if it's against God's law, then, you know, it's against God. And so that's different. But coming from a non-Christian perspective, I don't see how Christians could be okay with it, because, you know, they sustain and support the family. But as far as like other people, I really I just don't get it. I don't see how other people can say what love is unless you reference God. And so I agree with that first video. He was very biased in the fact of just saying his Christian perspective of it. And we really do need to go for that.
Yeah. I definitely felt the same way. I think he was, and I like what you said, Caitlin, because he was focused so much on religion that, and it really, as soon as he started quoting scriptures and everything, it's almost seemed like, I know I tuned out. I know Cammie kind of did too.
Yeah.
Because what happened, like it just like that lady said, I forgot her name, Sister Barlow. Yeah, she said that you start using religion as a defense, but not everyone agrees with your religious point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I loved how she said that, and that's actually why I liked the second and third ones. I actually really liked the second one. He was so good.
He was.
Even though I don't necessarily agree with his views, but the way he addressed people, he did it from the way that, like Sister Barlow said, she said that you're supposed to look at everyone like they're trying to improve mankind. And if you look at people from the perspective like their intentions are actually good, then you'll address them differently. Instead of calling them sinners and telling them that they're going to go to hell, you'll say, hey, I'm just like you. I have two moms. I'm just like you. You know, like that's. I really liked the second one.
Yeah.
As far as like from a speech point of view, his was really amazing, and the article was really impressive to me.
Yeah.
There was actually, I don't know if you all saw this, but there was one part of that he literally, I mean, if I would have known better, I've gone to different churches before, just to visit with whatever, but he actually called people in a sense to repentance. And I'm going, this is not the time or place. I just thought, wow, he literally, it was a statement that he made that he literally called people to repentance. I'm going, oh my.
He did.
Yeah.
He definitely did. I've been to a lot of different religions, and he's one of the Southern Baptist type that I've been to.
Yeah.
That's all they do is call people to repentance. He had that fire in him.
If you don't believe like I do, then you're wrong.
Which I don't think he was wrong with anything he said. It's just entirely from a speech point of view. He was definitely not speaking to that crowd, which was another point that Sister Barlow made. You got to speak to your crowd. Now, if he was at church, that would have been great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the way he presented it.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, should we talk about the second one? Kind of move into that one?
Yeah, we kind of covered the first one. Unless anyone else has anything to say about the first one.
The only thing that I think is because he focused so much on like religion, it made the rest of his points almost not credible. Like anything else he said was like by then, like if he actually got to a point that he was talking about something that was true, but there's facts to back it up, like people had shut down by that point and they weren't even listening to him and he was just standing up there ranting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
You guys
And I
already
think
know that I love the second
we
one.
have a lot of people like that just like talk and just go back to the scriptures on everything, and then you're just like seriously like, how much longer can this talk go on? And that's even at church. And so I mean, I think you really got to like liven it up a little bit and really I don't know, have some sort of right that's like gonna catch you. And I think that's one thing too that Sister Meeker said is in our articles we need to have like a good catchphrase that's gonna catch people and hook them, not just be like, oh gosh, here we go again. And I know that testimonies and we're like, here we go again. And so
well, it's just like sitting in church. I think it's just like sitting in church. I don't know how you all are, but this is how I am. The moment someone gets up and introduces their topic, I find it very, 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 I don't ever introduce my topic. I will never introduce my topic because the topic puts people to sleep like that. It's like if you tell a story, then they go, oh, well, what is this about? It livens them up. But the moment that you tell someone about your topic, they kind of go, if they like the topic, they're like all ears. If they don't, they're like turned off completely.
Yeah.
And so
yeah, and I noticed like in that second speech, he just grasped me, like I was zoned in and he kept me there the whole time. Just the way he delivered it and his tone, he even demonstrated in a short amount of time the story of self, the story of us, and the story of now.
We noticed that
He did
too.
that in a short amount of time, but he likened what his own personal situation was like, how it affects others around him, and then how it's affecting him now. And not that I agreed with what he was saying, but the way he presented it, he was trying to reframe my mind, and he made me think about things that I hadn't before. So I thought that was really interesting.
Sorry, go ahead, Kayla.
That's okay. I was just going to say, I noticed the same thing with the story of self, story of us, and story of now. And just like you were saying, Caitlin, really like made a connection with the audience through doing that. And he made himself relatable to them. You know, they felt like, or I felt like, okay, like I can even relate with him, you know?
Yeah, and people were...
Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
The guy just didn't do that at all. You know, he just talked about, okay, this is my opinion and this is how it is, you know? And the second guy said, okay, let's relate to each other, and let's, like, he met the needs of the audience rather than just sharing his opinion flat out.
Yeah, and he did it good, because if you notice in the first one, like we said, people just kind of, their body language was disengaged, people walked out, and then in the second one, there was people behind it. He made the audience giggle at a point.
Yeah.
He made the audience, like, there were people nodding, like, in agreement, and it just was completely different.
I liked
story frame.
I liked the laughter in the background, because the moment he said something about, you know, his looks or whatever else, you know, he was just so cute, whatever. It's like, it's like it kind of made you feel like, it kind of brought you into his family life, like, you know, that he was, you know. And then he brought in, I don't know if you want to call it a sympathy tactic or what have you, bring in about the fact that his, you know, about his mothers, and, you know, I would call it a sympathy tactic is what it is. But needless to say, it drug people in, like they thought about, wow, what if that was me and my family, and la la la, you know. But I noticed, I was looking too at the fact that he didn't look at his notes too much. He knew what he was going to say before he said it. The other guy was looking at his notes. He was pretty much looking down, like, pretty much the whole time. And this guy knew what he was going to say, when he was going to say it, and he had it embedded. And Marcia, is that her name? Marcia indicated in what she said that we have to dig deep. You know, we have to dig deep and give certain information to the audience. That they, who was it? One of you that said that, is that that the audience never thought about before. That's what he did. He gave us he literally opened it up to where it made you think about what he was saying. Like, oh, well, so if I was actually sitting on the, you know, obviously without the beliefs that I have right now, if I was sitting on the, you know, if I was teetering going, his speech was a really valid speech, and I would have to take that speech home and really talk about it and go, you know. I mean, if I just didn't have an opinion at all, so.
Yeah.
I think
he's talked like all the other ones, like those 500 of them that we were supposed to watch, just those short clips of the advocacy ones. I think it was for this class. They just presented so differently, like those different females that spoke. Was it this class? I think. Maybe not. Anyway, there was like several videos that we were supposed to watch, and sorry if it's a different class, but I could just tell some of them, like, they didn't look at their notes at all. Like Cheryl had mentioned, they didn't look at the notes. They just like presented so well, and I was like, whoa, that is like so powerful. And then some were just like giving the facts, and we're like this, and just like looking and da-da-da-da, da-da-da, and da-da-da. And I was like, oh my goodness, I would be snoring right now. But the other ones were like, whoa, that's
yes.
I really think like having a firm aspect and a firm point in what it is that you're trying to present is very, very crucial, because you collect the audience and they love it, and they'll actually listen to what it is that you have to share.
Yeah, that was for this class. That's the people who spoke from the United Families.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Yep. You're so good. You're right on the ball, Caitlin.
Oh, no. I just watched it last night, so.
I really liked in his speech too, how because like you guys said, he used the story of me, or the story of self, the story of us, and the story of now, and he even used it to the point where he called out one of the judges and said, "Hey, if I were your son, you'd be proud of me."
Yeah.
I thought that was so cool. Like you were saying, Malia, like he captivated their attention by drawing them in, even applying them to his speech. It was so personal. It was because he said, "If I were your son, you love me."
Yeah.
You know, one added thing that it was an attractive thing in his speech. I understood it. Don't agree with it, but I understood it. Is he said that the argument is not to change them as their lifestyle, how they feel, whatever else. It's not about changing them. It's to change the law to how they are viewed. So with that argument, if you were on the fence and thinking, well, I believe in families, I believe in this, and so on and so forth, that one statement would have actually had me thinking too, because we all want what's good for the family, no matter what they are. If you can actually make a life, out of, the goodness of who your parents are. But the one thing I don't necessarily, I didn't really, he mentioned about, look at me, I turned out really great and all this stuff. Though, he might have turned out that way, but I kind of wonder what he went through before he got that way. Because there's been so many, studies in which kids have been interviewed, kids have been interviewed to where the lifestyle really, really causes a lot of friction in the family, a lot of it. And so he might be standing up for this now, but I kind of wonder what he went through growing up, So
Yeah. I think along with that too, like his talk really was so good and powerful and I loved it. But like Cheryl said, on the other side, like something that was less effective about his talk is that he only shared his one personal story, and how many other millions of children are out there being raised by gay parents and what are their stories,
Right.
And so we can't judge like this huge decision based off of one story. Like it would have been more effective if he had showed evidence that his situation was similar to all these other gay couples and their children's outcomes, rather than focusing on just one person and their outcome.
Which
I like
is
that
empirical
statement.
data.
Right. Which Sister Barlow specifically talked about. She said it, but she did say, like, if you have to go with empirical data or the persuasion, stay on the side of the persuasion. So I think that's where he was at, because he might not have had any of that empirical data, and so he was like, well, rather than just listing off a bunch of facts, I'm going to stay over here and keep my audience captivated, which is kind of what the first guy didn't do. Yes, his were religious, but he saw them as religious facts, and as facts of God, and so that's where he stayed, and it made his a lot less effective, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
All right, so what did you guys think? Does everyone share their opinion about the second one? Are you guys good with that?
yeah.
Yeah, I'm good.
So what about the third? What about the article? I'm interested to see what everybody thought of that.
Well, mine was, first of all, that he knew his data. I personally thought that he knew his data about the laws, the government, and the court system, all this stuff. He pretty much knows that stuff, which I don't even know that stuff. So, I'm impressed with anybody that researches enough to get that information, because that's an important backing. He pulled his audience into his article this is one thing I really didn't, and I don't know how you guys feel about this. This is one thing I didn't like. He literally pulled me into the article, making it sound like he was completely for gay marriage, like completely for it. And then he switched it like a switch and bait thing. And then he clarified flat out that he was not for this. I don't know how you guys looked at it, but I was going, okay, well, yeah, it's just the wording. Plus he called all those, well, obviously in what do you call it? Being funny or being, what's the word for it? I don't remember. But he called all those that are Christian or all those that believe this certain way. He said they're bigots, or I don't know. There was a word that he used, but I'm going, why would you say that and then switch how you? But that's how, for me, he drawed me into the actual article. And then he talked about
emotional, Annie.
Let's see here. How the family was being destroyed and that there's only one relationship. That's the basis I felt was the basis of his argument, is that there's only one marriage, and that marriage is can't even, in other words, you can't even bring children into the world without a natural method of a husband and wife, or man and woman. And so when it came down to sitting on the fence, you know, I would obviously I would agree with him, I guess, with how he views the family and stuff like that. I think he brings about a good argument towards the end. I just don't think, I didn't like how his argument started at all, personally. And so,
I actually really liked how it started.
really?
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was impressive because instead of being okay, for the first two talks that we listened to, you knew immediately what their opinion was, right?
Right.
Well, this guy, he tried to say that I can see this perspective. I can see that the world is all about this idea, but I'm necessarily not. And he didn't do it in a way that was, I guess, offensive or in your face. But when he started explaining his points, his perspective, he was a lot more clear, and he was logical. He was sensible.
That's true.
I really liked that he was sensible about his persuasion and logical. Now, on the other hand, he didn't share too many. He didn't much data. Yeah, he didn't use too much data. Actually, it almost seemed like he avoided some data in certain parts where he could have used some empirical data. And he didn't follow the story of the self, the story of us, and the story of now very well. He talked a little bit about now. It seemed like he started with the now, actually. But I really enjoyed the article. I thought his perspective was because his argument. And I liked how he started out sarcastic too. Like, I know everyone's going to belittle me at the very end of this, and they're just going to destroy my comments. But hey, here's my opinions.
No, I found that his article was, it definitely pulled you in. But were you confused? I'm just kind of curious. Were you confused when you first started listening to or reading what he was saying? Were you confused at first, going, well, what's his view? Because that's how I was kind of interpreting. Is that how you looked at it, or did it just go into it quickly and then, you know what I mean? Did you have any sense of what he was talking about to begin with, whether he was for or against?
Like me personally, I think I usually don't make an opinion or form an opinion until the end towards the end, because people can be persuasive, they can not explain their point to the middle paragraph, which that was one thing that was weak on his side, is that he didn't actually get into the depth of what he was discussing until the middle of the article, which he really should have addressed it first. But on the other hand, he was trying to say, he was giving background to the information that he was going to be discussing. So I didn't actually make a decision until about halfway through or towards the end.
Yeah,
So that's just me, though.
Like Spencer said, I liked how he did show, though, that he understood both sides of the argument. Mm-hmm. And that, like Spencer, I think you mentioned how he said, like, okay, I know that a lot of you are going to oppose what I'm saying. So that's okay, go for it, because I understand what you're saying, and I still believe what I'm saying. And that's something that Marcia mentioned, that we really have to show that we understand where our opposition is coming from. And once we show them that, yes, I understand your side, but I still feel this way, then they're going to be less likely to like just bash whatever we're saying, and more likely to listen to what we have to say, even if they don't agree, because they feel like we do understand them, you know?
Huh. Yeah. Something to think about, that's for sure. Next time I read an article, I think I jumped into it just expecting his argument right there at front. Maybe that's what threw me off completely, you know?
That's kind of what I did too, Cheryl.
A lot of people probably do get turned off when they're reading something, because they're like, oh, well, this person's just, like, if I'm reading something, I'm like, oh, this person's for abortion, then I'm not even going to give them a time of day because I am opposed to that. Whereas if they make it seem like, let's see what they have to say, I think it gives us an unbiased and a non-judgmental way of looking at them. And I think like even like the Pentatonics group, like I love them so much, and like I just think they're so talented. And we were watching their video for Hallelujah, and I was like, wait, is that a guy singing right there? Like I totally thought that was a girl this whole time, like just by listening to the voice. And like you guys should watch it. It is phenomenal. Like he is so incredibly talented. And I was like, see, now if I would have known that he was, would I have judged him as gay, or would I have seen what his potential is? Or you look at Ellen DeGeneres, and she's gay, but she contributes to the world. She's like a phenomenal, incredible woman. But are we judging her because she's gay? Like, and I've heard people like, don't watch that in my house. Like, she's a lesbian or whatever. And so it's like,
She's as funny as heck, though. My gosh, she's as funny as heck.
I know she is, but like, I don't know. So I think I really like it when people present their stuff with you not knowing which way they stand, because it gets your brain thinking and really making you have to look like within yourself what it is, how you really truly feel, because now you're like caught in the middle. And like that, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I take on presenting that information. So
yeah, I agree with you, Malia. That was perfect what you said. And I often, it's so funny that you brought up Ellen, because I think of her all the time when I talk about stuff like this, because I just love her. Like, you can't help but not love her. And it doesn't necessarily mean, you know, just because she views things differently, she still, like you said, is so influential and does so much good. And it would be wrong of me to think less of her. You know,
I think it would be totally different though if her talk show was about the specific subject of, like, you know, her lifestyle. It would be totally different. I can remember being in a class, a children's literature class for college here in my local city here, and the teacher, she was married to a girl. This is before the law came out that you could marry, but I can remember seeing in that classroom, and she showed Ellen DeGeneres. She showed a video of her talking to someone, but the whole show was about this one kid and all the harassment he went through in school. And don't quote me on this. Has been a long time. I don't know whether he ended up dying at the end, or like he was harassed and then someone, or whether I don't know what happened to him at the end. So I'm not gonna say anything. But the whole thing was based upon his life, and the whole show was about, well, this isn't right, and all this stuff to tease and all this stuff, you know, like this person because of how he feels about, you know, his same sex, whatever. And I thought, well, and I got turned off with it because I thought, well, this class it's about children's literature, seriously. But I'm going, what I didn't understand was, I'm going, this show was talking about one specific person being teased. It's not about that. It's about people in general should not be teased for anything. You know, you could come from, you know, you could live in the ghetto, whatever. It doesn't matter your circumstances. The point is, you shouldn't be bullied. That's what it was about. It was about bullying. And so he was being bullied about a specific thing. I know the show was about one certain thing, but I thought, well, the whole point of it is not that he's bullied. Not that he's gay. The whole point of it is you shouldn't be bullying anybody. But she brought out the different about the topic of being gay, though. So that's, I guess, what I was thinking about. So, anyway, sorry about that.
Does anyone have any other input for the last one?
So the only thing I agree with everything you guys said. Oh, go ahead, Cami.
I was just going to say, the only thing that I thought was like less effective about that entire last thing, I thought it was really well done, was that he then got, like, at one point he really got onto religion, and specifically was like, if you're Christian, then you believe like I do. And that could be seen as an attack by a lot of people. Like, if you don't believe like I do, then you're not Christian, is kind of how it came off. Right. And that can really turn people off. And I think that, like, it was a great article, but when someone got to that point, and they're already kind of feeling like he's like attacking them because of their orientation, then they're gonna like really take offense to, you're not Christian because of this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I disagree with that, but
he did.
But that's my opinion. I think that if you read everything before that point, then you would understand that his idea was simply logical. He wasn't saying you don't. Is actually what he said in the very beginning, that if you're going to criticize certain parts without taking it as a, what's the word that he used? I didn't even know what that word was.
Hyperbole.
Hyperbole, yeah. Which means
hyperbole.
Yeah, I'm like, what is that?
Yeah, I was looking at that too.
But it actually means
exaggerated claims. That
exaggerated thinking, yes.
You shouldn't take it too seriously, essentially. And that's what people do with it. And I think that particular point is one of those too, that he wasn't saying you're not Christian. All of his logic was pointing to the idea that marriage is a Christian-based belief. And it's simply for that purpose. So, okay, but that's my opinion.
But if his entire point was to be logical, then coming out and saying you are not Christian is not really a logical stance.
But he wasn't saying you're not Christian. He's saying the Christian idea is this.
We'll discuss this later.
Okay, sorry.
But you know what? What really found in my mind is, and I wish I would have written down. I have to actually read it again to put it down. But he said something about. It just kind of gave me chills when I read it. Is the fact that when Christ, what was it they said? Something about Christ, when he took upon he took upon our sins, that he literally took upon, oh man, I had to have you guys look at it again. I don't want to say something about something that's.
I know which part you're talking about.
You know, it was just a little statement about Christ taking upon the sins of the world, and that it was completely like, oh, never mind. I hate when I do that. I should have written it down.
So does anyone else have anything else?
No, I think we're good.
Yeah, I think we covered everything sufficiently. So Caitlin, were you doing the 2-minute wrap up? Is that right?
Yeah, I was doing it. Sorry, said.
Okay, sorry, Kayla.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, either one. I'm good with whatever, Kayla.
No, okay,
I got it.
Okay. I really don't care. Whoever wants to do it.
I can do it.
Perfect.
Okay, so from the first video, we talked about what he did effectively was that he was concise, and when it comes to religion and the scriptures, he did know what he was talking about. But less effectively was that his whole premise was based off of religion, and he seemed a little biased in that way, and not really credible, and he didn't try to relate to the audience. He was just really focused on getting his opinion across. For the second video, what was effective that we talked about was that he was very positive and engaging. He captivated his audience. He was a great storyteller, and he really used the story of self, story of us, and story of now very well, which made it personal and made the audience relate to him. The only thing really that was not as effective with his speech was that he only shared his own story and didn't share any other evidence of what he was saying was true. But overall, we felt that his video was very effective and persuasive. The third article, we decided that what was effective was that he showed that he understood both sides of the argument, and he came about his discussion in a logical way. What was less effective about his article was that he didn't show much data. He didn't follow the story of self, us, and now. And he didn't really state his argument up front, which could have been confusing. And that he mostly assumed that everyone believes like he did. So, yeah, that's what we talked about.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to stop the broadcast.